Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. On today's episode, I'm out here bright and early at beautiful Lake Amador. This week's temperature will be in the 100 degrees by afternoon, so I will be targeting the morning to noon bite. On the last Catfish episode, I demonstrated how to target an easy access area, but there were quite a group of vocal anglers that absolutely hated the idea of being in an area that had other anglers present. In the words of Thomas Sowell, there are no solutions, just trade-offs. So put on your walking shoes because we're going on a hike if you want solitude fishing. The first thing an angler must understand is a catfish behavior through the season. In the summer, particularly in the lowland reservoirs dotted along the west coast, channel catfish can be caught in bays that are formed when the water is drawn down. However, no two bays will be equal in terms of producing fish. The area I'm targeting today is a long bay with a saddle on one side adjacent to a point that divides the bay into two. The reason I'm targeting the saddle side is because I'm fishing the morning to noon bite, so therefore I want to intercept the fishes feeding shallow and the fishes traveling on the bottom of the saddle. The bay on the other side is a shallow bay. It is not an ideal daytime location, but will be an excellent night fishing location. The bait I will be using will be the salted sardines I've cured. Sardines are generally bigger than anchovies, so I will cut it in half and peel the bones out. Afterwards, I will hook it with the flesh side out and I will apply a short piece of elastic thread. The reason I peel the bone out is so that it will be an easier parcel of protein for the catfish to grab, particularly because the catfish in this lake is really uniform. The rig I will be using is a basic fish finder rig. I will be using a smaller circle hook, and primarily I use circle hook because I don't intend on keeping any fish, therefore it is perfect for catch and release fishing. Afterwards, I will text pose the bait just as I will do with most of my oily fish fillets. Then I will wrap a piece of miracle thread about 10 to 12 times to secure the bait, ensuring that if I were to get smaller catfish, they wouldn't be able to peel the bait off within seconds. This will save me in the process of rebaiting constantly. The smaller catfishes will be quite a nuisance during the daytime, particularly I find in these lowland lakes. This is what the product should look like, and now it is ready to cast. Just make sure that the hook is exposed for a better hookup rate. In these bays, during the daytime, I will position the first rod in the bottom of the saddle. What is a saddle, one might ask? A saddle is a geographic formation where the bottom is a flush horseshoe shape. Imagine it as being the bottom of the horseshoe. An angler can find these locations simply by observing the lake when it is low or by getting a topographical map. Most of these lakes will have a topographical map readily in the visitor centers. You can also take a look at those and it will help you a lot in deciding an area. The second rod, I will position it on the edge of the point that divides this long bay. Despite it being less than a few feet, catfish will traverse from the bottom of the saddle up the slope throughout the periods of the day. While rebaiting the rod on the right hand side because a turtle got to it, the rod in the saddle on the left hand side got bit. This fish ended up self-hooking, and this is the beauty of the circle hook. I picked up the rod and just started reeling. This fish came from the bottom of the saddle. Despite it being early morning, there will be some fish present in the deeper waters as well. The reason I'm using casting gear today instead of spinning gear, some of you guys might ask, is because this particular saddle have a lot of boulders on the bottom. The last thing I want is a catfish to get hung up on the bottom. I don't want to leave a bunch of fish stuck on the bottom of the lake with nowhere to go. I want to land as many fish as I can, particularly when I'm catch and release fishing. This is a beautiful channel catfish. This is about the typical size in the reservoir right now. Due to a few years ago during the drought, there was a pretty large fish kill. Most of the fish in this reservoir are relatively uniform at this size. There will be some smaller fishes present, but this is a very nice channel catfish. Thanks for playing, buddy. Rest off a bit and off you go. It is barely reaching mid-morning and the temperatures are soaring already. It is close to 80 degrees and it is not even past 9 o'clock in the morning. While trying to rebait the rod that got the fish, the right hand rod is now beginning to get picked apart. The fish is on it, and with these circle hooks, I like to wait until the rod really takes off. Because if I were to pick up the rod prior to the fish self-hooking, the circle hook will not set the fish properly. This fish is on it, and I'm waiting. And now, I get the bite I want to see to pick up the rod and start reeling. This fish came off the gentle side of the point. As I said before, there will be fish traversing from the saddle to the shallow side of the point. The beauty of these far off beaten area is because not many of these areas are well fished, so therefore these catfish have a lot more confidence in moving into the shallows. However, many of these areas are not readily available in an easy park and fish location. Therefore, an angler must do their due diligence of learning the lake they wish to target, either by looking at a topographical map or downloading a map online to start searching. These areas are not easily found and will take time, as an angler must explore and do their due diligence. That much I can explain. This is actually another very nice fish. This is a decent sized channel catfish as well. This is actually a very strange occurrence because the circle hook actually ended up hooking this catfish on top of the head. I find this to be a rare occurrence because maybe the catfish is digging with his head down, therefore when he accidentally bumps the bait, he ended up getting hooked in the head. Another very nice channel catfish, probably about 4 to 5 pounds. This is about the typical size in the lake. There will be plenty of these fish readily available and feeding throughout this time of year. Thanks for playing, buddy. Off you go. I rebaited the rod and was preparing to cast the rod out again, and all of a sudden the rod on the left hand side took off. This bite came from the bottom of the saddle. By understanding how to read a topographic map of the lake you're targeting, the boatless angler can maximize his or her success at catfish fishing. A lot of great success can be had on these off-beaten paths, particularly by putting in a little bit of work and understanding the topographic of the lake. Being a shorebound angler can come with great success. This is a smaller pan-sized fryer kitty. You're a lucky little guy, I'm not in Missouri. This would be a perfect whole-sized pan-sized frying catfish. I'll show them to you guys real quick because this will be the typical size I would harvest. Thanks for playing, little guy. Off you go. Another key factor for success is to travel light. I will just carry a backpack, a bait cooler, and enough water to get me through the hike along with my rods and gear. Traveling light will save you a lot of time when moving to these off-beaten paths for fishing. While trying to cast the right-hand rod, the rod on the left got bit immediately. I picked up the rod and this was another nice channel catfish coming from the bottom of the saddle. As the sun came up, I noticed more and more bites are starting to come from the bottom of the saddle. This tends to happen if a catfish fisherman is fishing during the daytime. I find that it is because these channel catfish will use the cover of the deeper water to move alongside and hunt the shallower bays, like this bay in particular. This bay is not deep by any metrics, but will offer a far deeper side on one end versus a shallow side on the other, close to the point. By targeting the long bays like these in the summer, a catfish angler can intercept the movement of these fish during the daytime. Despite it being damn near 100 degrees, you can continue to catch until you can no longer bear the heat. This is a very nice fish. Alright buddy, off you go. While washing my hand after rebaiting the right hand rod, the rod on the left got bit. This bite was actually pretty slow, but I knew that the fish was swimming towards me, so I picked up the rod and began reeling. It is about 10:30 in the morning, and more of these bigger fish are coming from the left-hand rod, which is positioned in the saddle. When this situation occurs, it is often best to position both rods in the saddle, but I find that I still want to target catfish that will occasionally traverse the shallow side of the point. This is another solid channel catfish. If I were to be retaining fish today, this would be one of the fish I would retain. Not so big, but not so small. I could get 2 or 3 meals out of this fish easy. But I will be releasing fish because I do not plan on retaining any fish today. I'll show him to you guys real quick before I let him go. This is a gorgeous fish. Thanks for playing, buddy. Off you go. As I mentioned before, don't dismiss the shallow water. The rod on the right hand side is being bit, and this is the rod I position on the shallow point. The rod is being bit, but I know that I must wait until the catfish fully inhales the bait and self-sets, because if I were to pick up the rod and set immediately, I would miss the fish completely with the circle hook. Now that's the bite I'm looking for again. Despite the sun being high up in the sky, in the summertime there will always be some catfish hunting the shallow grounds, particularly because that is where all the bait fish are, whether it be threadfin shad, bluegills, or baby bass. These catfish are not afraid to hunt the shallow. There will always be a few in the shallow, so therefore I never dismiss the shallow water in the summertime. Hopefully today's episode helped those of you guys whom are a little bit on the antisocial side traverse and find fish in the many reservoirs you guys like to target. What happened is a lot of these waters will often not be fish because they are often out of the ways, and many anglers don't like coming out this far in search of just catfish. By trading the ease of access, an angler can often find many of these rewarding and solitude style kind of fishing away from the crowd and away from many busy area often frequented by other anglers. This is actually another very nice channel catfish. This is actually a very beautiful fish. This fish is a male. I could tell by his bigger head and his darker colors. The females will tend to have a lot much smaller mouth. This fish had gone through some hard times. Therefore, I will release him. Thanks for playing, buddy. Off you go. The rod on the right is being bit right now. I will wait until the catfish self-hooks and the rod tips over a little before picking up the rod and reeling. These circle hooks have a great hooking ratio if the angler allows the fish to take the bait prior to picking up the rod and reeling. This fish is swimming towards me because I see the line keep getting slacker. Therefore, I picked up the rod and began reeling. This is a much smaller catfish, and it came off the shallow side of the point. As I mentioned before, in the summertime, I never dismiss the shallow water. More often than not, I will always pick up a bonus pretty large catfish or so in the shallow water. But there will be quite a lot of these what I call nuisance kitties in the shallow water. Thank God I'm not in Missouri. I keep making fun of Missouri because about this size catfish is what I find on every one of them folks out Midwest stringers or fish cage. Alright little guy, you are lucky. I am letting you go. Off you go, dude. It is nearing noon and the heat is becoming extremely unbearable. The bites are still coming in strong, but I will fish till about noon before the heat of the day reaches and I can no longer bear being out here in the sun. The rod on the left is being bit, but I'm going to wait until it picks it up. The catfish is now on it. Now I can pick up the rod and just reel. This fish came from the saddle, as I expected, because the sun is getting higher. Not a big fish by any means, but they are continuing to bite despite the sun getting higher in the sky. I find that I can normally catch throughout the entire daytime period, but due to the extreme weather we are having in Northern California, or hell, even across the entire United States, it is actually very unbearable to fish during the daytime. Hence why a lot of anglers will often fish the nighttime to get away from the heat. This is another nice little pan-sized whole fryer kitty, but I will let him go. I will show him to you guys real quick and I will call it a day. It is near 100 degrees and I can't stand it any longer. Thanks for playing, buddy. Off you go. Overall, it was a great morning on the water. I got some great exercise in hiking, and I caught a few catfish for the camera despite the brutal heat. Hopefully this answers and helps those anglers that are seeking a more Solitude style of boatless fishing. I understand the frustration of some anglers in regards to heavily fished areas, but at the end of the day, the most important message I want to convey is just go fishing. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, tight lines y'all.